Hi everyone, welcome to my very new channel, Go Slow Lolo. The idea is that I'm Lolo and I have to remind myself to go slow because otherwise it's just too much stress and anxiety. So I've been using Notion on and off for a few years now, evidenced by this archive I have that just has all these pages that I tried and didn't work for me. But recently I had sort of a Notion revival where everything just kind of clicked and I finally have a setup that I use consistently and, more importantly, love looking at and love using. So let's start screen recording and jump in. So this is my homepage. I don't really do anything here, but it feels wrong to not have a homepage. So there's Winnie the Pooh keeping us happy and some overviews of my different pages. But today we're going to jump into here, the task log. So at the top here is a sync block with buttons to all my other most used pages, as well as a couple buttons for my most used actions. So for example, if I click this guy, it will automatically add a note to my notes database, which I'll show you in another video, without having to navigate all the way there and add a new page just to do so. So everything on this page is a single database, other than the multis, which I'll explain a little bit later, and they're just sorted in different views. So up here we have the task dump, then the weekly schedule. We have tasks sorted by urgency, tasks sorted by place, and then these larger buckets of tasks, which I call multis, but most people will probably call them projects. It just kind of stresses me out to think that I have 7 outstanding projects, so I just like calling them multi-steps, and then a little toggle for my completed steps. So first up is my task dump. This is a toggle, so if there's nothing to dump, we can make it go away. So every time I have tasks that I know need to be added, and this will mostly come from my commonplace book when I do my nightly or, let's be honest, my weekly review, I just type them all here, like check credit card transactions and RSVP to the wedding, buy more rice, send Pooh an email, be happier, etc. There's some key information that needs to be added so that the task is properly sorted into the below databases, but sometimes I just don't have the time or the will to put that in, which is why I like the task dump area, because if I want, I can just leave it like that without any further processing and come back to it later when I've found the will to live. But let's say I have the energy now, in which case we would add the due date. Or if it's a task that doesn't have a due date, like be happier, you can't really put a due date on that, we would leave this blank and check the anytime box so that it gets sorted properly below. If it's a recurring task, like let's say I want to check my credit card transactions every 2 weeks, I would write here the number 14, which will come into play later. And finally, I'll click here the related multi-step as well as where the task takes place. And then here's the best part. Once all that is done, instead of manually doing something to remove all of them, you just click this button and then boom, it gets sorted below and removed from the task dump. And the reason this works is because I have a secret property called toProcess, which anything added here would be. And then all this button is doing, which you can see here, is making them unchecked so they disappear. Next, I'm going to scroll down here and explain the first view, which is sorted by urgency. In the urgency view, which is probably what I refer to the most, we have some new exciting properties. So I'll explain these buttons first. The first one is done, which is self-explanatory, but the reason I have it set as a button rather than just a checkbox is because I also want to record the date that I finished a task, just for life record keeping purposes. So if I click this, you'll see that it does the checkbox clicking for me and also edits the property of the date done to the date that the button is triggered. So if I click it today, it says that the date done is today. I also have this automation here of adding it to my monthlies, but that's related more to my life log, which I'll explain in another video. The next due button is the same as the done button, but specifically for recurring tasks. So it does the same thing where it marks it as done and also adds the date done. But in addition, it'll create a new task with all the same properties with that number that you added up there, the 14, that number of days added to it. And finally, we have the postpone button, which is just adding 7 days to the due date. You could make it more specific by clicking here, adding a specific date, but I realized that I hate friction and needing to click into a calendar and use my brain to choose a date is just really beyond me. So I like having a simple snooze button where I just know that it's going to push it to somewhere in the future, in this case 1 week. So those are these 3 buttons. We also have here a formula that I am really proud of, which is just taking the due date and turning it into language and colors that actually mean things to me. Again, this is just trying to decrease friction and not need to use my brain. So when I see the color, I know, okay, that's overdue. I see orange, I know it's due soon, etc. Feel free to pause, screenshot, steal this formula, but essentially it calculates the days between today and when it's due and pops out a nice little phrase telling me that it's due in X number of days or that it's overdue. Okay. So this section is sorted by things due in the next week, things due in the next month, And then those tasks that we checked earlier as being anytime, represented here aptly by a turtle because they don't have a due date. And this view is just all the tasks in case you want an overview. I like that when you click it, it makes an almost rainbow and it feels really nice. The next sort here is by place, which I've categorized as laptop, phone, out, and home. This way, if I'm going out one day, I can click here before I leave and see what tasks I need to do while I'm out and about and see if maybe I can sneak one of them in. For example, if I have a FedEx package to return and I'm going out one day, I might just click here, see that, bring the FedEx package with me, and then boom, the task is done. Or alternatively, if I decide that there's a day where I'm just not going to go outside and the sun won't see me, I can come here and see what house things I can do. But gotta admit, the main reason I use this is just to click on laptop and see what laptop tasks I can do because I live in front of my computer. Okay, so now we get to the fun multis part, which is just a way for me to see the different groups of tasks in my life. So I think, okay, today I want to focus on buying all the things I need to buy. I can look here and see that I have 2 tasks to do, which is just this formula here. Feel free to steal it. And it's just based on a roll-up I have that shows the number of unchecked tasks that are related to this multi. I'm planning on doing a more in-depth Notion tutorial of just how you can build this yourself, but for now this is just a tour. But let me know if that's something that interests you. And finally, we have my completed tasks, which is just so I can feel good about myself. The formula here is part of that mega formula above, which just says that if the date done isn't empty, meaning that there is a date in the date done category, then it shows this gray text with the date. I only ever come here when I want to smile and feel good about myself, so not that relevant, and that's why it's hidden with a toggle. Okay, we're almost done. So the last thing is just my weekly planning. So on Sundays, or whenever I remember to, I'll take a look at what the most urgent tasks are, which is this section, and I'll drag them into this weekly planner. So let's say I want to email Pooh on Monday, I'll drag that here. I want to RSVP to the wedding on Friday, I'll drag that here. And this is just a general plan. I like to try to do it every Sunday just so my brain knows that once I put a task into this database, it'll be put somewhere and I will see it and remember to do it. Plus, when it's dragged here, it stays in the urgency because remember, these are all just different views of the same database. And I'll also be able to see the due date here with the formula property as well. So it just adds another location where the task is. And hopefully on a Monday, I'll see this page and be like, okay, it's Monday. I plan to do this task. Let's do it. And that brings us to a final button that I have, which is the remove. It only shows up in this view because its sole purpose is for me to decide that I don't want to do a task this week anymore. So instead of dragging it to another day and then to another day, I'll just click remove. It removes it from this entire week. It keeps it in the urgency, so I still see that it's urgent. But if I just can't be bothered, I can postpone it from this urgency view. Okay, and part of the point of this weekly planner is that I can link it in other pages. So I have it set up in my homepage as well. So whenever I happen to be my homepage and it's Monday, I can see, okay, today's Monday. Here are the tasks that some past version of me had dragged and assigned to today. So maybe I'll try to do it. And that's my to-do list system. I've tried Todoist, TickTick, Apple Notes, Google Keep, a bunch of different things, but none of them really felt like my app, if that makes sense. Like, it didn't bring me joy to open it. It just kind of felt like a to-do list, and I hate the idea of tasks building up. There's something about building this page, customizing it to exactly what I need, and knowing that I can keep altering it and adding new features to the extent that I need them that makes me just love using it and also makes me less stressed opening it and seeing my to-do list. So hopefully it inspires you or helps one of you get closer to a productivity system that also works for you and doesn't add stress to your life. I'm excited to keep making videos like this. Let me know if you saw something in my Notion that you want me to explain more or explain how I did, but I'll keep making these videos to eventually show you every part of my Notion. Super excited that you're here. Thanks for watching and bye. I'll catch you in the next one.